we have decided to brand ourselves as the Do Good University. And what does do good mean? That's not grammatically bad English. We believe that our job as educators is not only to prepare students so that they are prepared for the workplace, but also that they will apply their knowledge and their skills for the causes of justice and compassion for those in need. In other words, to make a difference in society, which we call do good. But it's more than just charity. Maybe I can explain it by, you've all heard the story that if somebody's hungry and you give that person a fish, the person has a meal. That is charity, and charity is important. But if you teach the hungry person how to fish, that person has a meal for a lifetime. But we want to go beyond that. We want to help transform the fishing industry so that the whole village has food and we create jobs and prosperity. That is known as social innovation and social entrepreneurship. That is known as do good. And let me just say one other thing. One of the books that has always stayed with me as an immigrant is Alexis de Tocqueville's book, Democracy in America, written back in the 1830s, 1840s. And his principal observation is that the main characteristic quality of American democracy is that people come together, that volunteers, people in the community come together to make a difference in the life of their fellow citizens. Basically, it is citizenship in action. And I'm of this old view, and I think many of us at this university are, that our responsibility as educators, as I say, is not simply to produce people for the workforce, but also to teach them to apply the knowledge and the skills for the causes of justice and service and community impact in a world that's greatly in need of these blessings. So, Bob, are you, where are you, Bob? Bob, please come up. Bob Grimm, the director of our Do Good Institute.
Thank you, President Lowe, and I want to say I really appreciate this opportunity to do this session in front of our esteemed friends from U21. As President Lowe said, our Do Good campus is about engaging all students from orientation to graduation and beyond in experiences inside and outside the classroom, where they learn about social impact, social innovation, collaboration, and they're empowered to make the biggest impact possible on a cause they care about, to be forces for good in the world. And one of the pioneering ways in which we've grown our Do Good campus is through what we've called the Do Good Challenge. It's a prize competition in which students are basically challenged to make the biggest impact they can on a cause they care about. And we have over 100+ teams who compete every year across campus, engaging thousands of students. And what we do to support the growth of those efforts and the development of those efforts is we partner with academic programs that incorporate the Do Good Challenge as a class project. We provide seed funds both semesters to students to work on their and advancing their projects and ventures. We do provide coaching, and we just recently launched a Do Good Accelerator, which provides support for students to basically continue working on their Do Good projects or ventures throughout the summer. And also, we've launched a new initiative to support alums and continue to advance their projects or ventures. Students in the Do Good Challenge can do a project, could be an advocacy project of some kind, or they could create their own kind of new business or nonprofit focused on social impact. And we've been fortunate to have numerous award-winning efforts coming out of the Do Good Challenge. For example, we had a Do Good Challenge winner who subsequently went on to be named the EY Social Entrepreneur of the Year in Argentina for the NGO that he created. And the Do Good Challenge allows us to produce local and global impacts. One group called Terps Against Hunger, for example, has partnered and collaborated with numerous groups around our surrounding campus, engaged thousands of students, and already provided over 3 million meals to families who are insecure. But what you're going to get to see with our session here is to get to see two Do Good student projects. And you're going to get a little taste of the Do Good Challenge. And what you're going to get is that each of our student groups here is going to pitch for 5 minutes. At the actual Do Good Challenge, they pitch for 5 minutes, and then they face judges who ask them tough questions. All right? But instead, in this case, after both of our students get to pitch, then Sarah Gallagher, who's our Chief Program Officer for the Do Good Institute, will ask them some tough questions. And also, along with her on our panel will be Dr. Jen Littlefield, who is the Director of Undergraduate Studies at the School of Public Policy and directed an academic program that incubated our first Do Good student, who's going to present today, Matt Hollister of the James Hollister Wellness Foundation. Please welcome Matt Hollister.
Trying to figure out how this thing works. Definitely not familiar with one of these. Thank you very much, Bob. You're really hyping me up. My modus operandi for these things is usually to sit in the back and keep my mouth shut and have everyone think I'm stupid rather than open my mouth and remove all doubt. But in this situation, it seems like I don't have a choice. Oh. Perfect, thank you. So my story and the story of the foundation begins from 2014 to 2015, when my father fought a year-long battle with brain cancer. After he had passed away, my family was left with thousands of dollars worth of cancer medication, and we had absolutely no idea what to do with it. We tried to give it to the hospital room next door to us. They were going through the same issue, but the hospital nixed it for liability concerns. So after doing some looking around, we eventually had to take the medication to a drop-off facility where it was almost certainly destroyed. Coming from a family that really doesn't like to waste things, this definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. But I soon found out that my story wasn't exactly within the category of unique. About $5 billion worth of medication is destroyed every year within the United States alone. And most of it is disposed of in improper ways, either being flushed down the toilet, which pollutes aquatic ecosystems, or by being incinerated, which releases harmful chemicals and dioxins into the atmosphere. That's $5 billion literally up in smoke or down the toilet. $5 billion that could be used to help people is instead being used to make the environment worse, at the expense of people like this woman here. This is Leslie Fuentes. Leslie lives in Honduras. She's a lovely woman and a lovely mother of 3. She's supported by a medical mission team that operates a yearly mission in Honduras that we supply medication to. A few years ago, there was a huge outbreak of chikungunya within Honduras. And chikungunya is a virus very similar to malaria. Unfortunately, one of Leslie's children contracted this virus, and being the good mother that she is, she picked up her child and walked several miles to the nearest hospital, where she waited in line for hours and hours and hours until when it was finally her turn, the doctor had to turn her away on the basis that he didn't have enough anti-inflammatory medication to give her. The last thing that a doctor should have to worry about is whether or not he has enough medication to give to his patients. But the reality of the matter is, in most developing countries, everywhere from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, they're all facing drug shortages of every sort and every type, anything from cancer medication to simple over-the-counter medication. Our waste is their necessity. To combat some of these problems, we created the James Hollister Wellness Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was named in honor of my late father. Our mission is to take this surplus medication and to get it to where it needs to go for charitable purposes. What we essentially do is we go up to pharmacies and we say, hey, you know all that medication you have in the back of your shop that will probably just end up in a landfill somewhere? Instead of throwing it away, give it to us, and we'll make sure that it ends up in the hands of a medical mission team operating in Bolivia, Honduras, Ghana, and hopefully in the future, Mozambique and Venezuela. People that have, low-income citizens that are desperately in need of these kind of medicine and medical services, but otherwise don't have access to it. As a result of our efforts so far, we've managed to serve 40,000 people as of this past January. Now, I know, I know I'm just shooting a big number at you, but indulge me for a second and imagine someone within your own life, a friend, a family member, a loved one, someone who's on regular medication. Now imagine what that person's life would be like if that medication were just to disappear today, or if they wouldn't have access to it. Because that's what each one of these 40,000 people experience on a regular basis. Now, these 40,000 people, helping them might not change the world, but it could change the world for these 40,000 people. A lot of these people, they're in desperate need of help, and frankly, we're desperate to help them. Because the ultimate goal of our foundation isn't necessarily just to save surplus medication from being needlessly wasted, it's to save lives from being needlessly lost. And that is a goal that transcends any barrier, any nationality, any tribe, as President Lowe and President Goodman very rightly suggested at the beginning. That's the goal of the U21, and that's a goal that's shared with the James Hollister Wellness Foundation. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Matt. That was wonderful. 40,000 people, over 40,000 people served. That's amazing. Well done. Next, I'd like to introduce Cedric Littlefield of Roots Africa. Roots Africa is a group that's making an impact abroad and right here on campus. They're fostering student learning and a unique approach to development. Please welcome Cedric. You press the green arrow to go forward.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cedric Littlefield. I am originally from Cameroon, in a city called Bamenda. Growing up in Cameroon, we had 6 farms. We worked on these farms each and every day in, day out. It was tedious manual labor. But at the end of the day, we still could not guarantee that we could have the next meal. And that, to me, thinking back as a child, I used to look at that as one of the biggest injustices that existed in the world. I always thought to myself, nobody that works this hard, nobody that goes through this manual labor each and every day should have to go to bed hungry. Fast forward a few years later, I made it to the United States, and I was living here in Maryland. Met a few farmers who came into DC, and they were like, come on to Idaho and see what it is like to be an American farmer. I went over there, stayed with over 10 farmers, learned from them, learned from their daily activities. While I was on one of these farms, one of the farmers told me, you see, this is what my day looks like. But when he was talking, I was absent-minded, and I was looking at a tractor on his farm cultivating. And then it dawned on me that what that tractor was able to do for 5 minutes was equivalent to the amount of work my entire family did for an entire week. Then I started thinking, how can I connect some of these resources, this knowledge, this expertise to farming communities in Africa? How can I make sure that we can learn from this? It was not just about the tractor. It was about the knowledge. Everything that I saw from there, I was just in awe. Because just telling a farmer that if you plant your corn in a straight row would improve your yield changes their life. And to me, I was looking at that like, what can I do? So I got back here in the University of Maryland and decided to start sharing this vision with different people and telling them about this idea of connecting students here in the University of Maryland to farmers in Africa. So I met Nathan and Anna Glenn. They currently live in Liberia. They work and teach people there how to do sustainable agriculture. They're kind of a bridge between these two communities. They also buy into this vision that together we can do better for farmers in local communities in Africa. And that is how Roots Africa started. Our mission in Roots Africa is to connect academic institutions here in the US and around the world to farming communities in Africa. We do not think that we are saviors. We don't think that we know all the solutions, but we do believe that by communicating with the people that go through these challenges each and every day of their life, that is the only way that we can address these challenges. So in the fall of 2017, students here at the University of Maryland started video conferencing with students in Liberia. They were identifying the challenges that farmers were facing, developing solutions to those challenges together. And I want to base emphasis on together. We developed all of those solutions together, and we were getting feedback from them each and every step of the way. When we came up with these solutions, we decided that we would travel to this country and actually implement. Tapping into the resources of our community around the campus and beyond, we fundraised over $25,000 that we used to travel over to Liberia. In Liberia, we went to 3 different villages. We went to Bending, we went to Penn, we went to Flompa, where we provided training on pest management, value-added agriculture, soil testing. It was an amazing experience for us, but it was also an amazing experience for the farmers and the students that we were collaborating with in Liberia. One of the things that we noticed before we even traveled was that LICC, the school that we were working with, had over 60% of its students as agriculture major, but they had only 5 agricultural textbooks in their entire class. So we conducted a book drive here on campus with help from the Alumni Association and various departments. We collected 500 agricultural textbooks that we shipped over to them, and we carried some with us when we were traveling. On the last day of our conference, of our event, of the whole trip, we decided to launch this conference where we brought in leaders from the local communities to look at how can you use this product that you're growing, add value to it, and make it into an entrepreneurial concept, and teaching them about using a business model canvas, bookkeeping. It's just little technologies, little tweaks here and there, but understanding the context of the people in that society that can truly make a magnitude of difference. This entire process has been a learning process for us as well as our counterpart. The virtual communication aspect of the class is integral for our project to be effective. It has been a process where we're changing and becoming better throughout the way. With the books that we sent, we noticed that some of them were not made for the African tropical climate that is warm and humid. Some of them, they needed only a chapter. So one of our members decided to come up with this new project called the Tiny Book Projects. And what we do there is we continue the virtual communication. We identify specific chapters of textbooks or research that faculty here at the University of Maryland have written. We put it into this little tiny textbook that costs about $1 or $2. And we are making those here as a community event that we ship over to our counterparts in Liberia. And now, this whole initiative was great, but we wanted a way for students to gain credit for doing it. Yes, they fundraise. Yes, they communicate. Yes, they develop solutions, but how can they gain credit to enrich their educational experience here? Through the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, we've been able to start a new class called AREC 360 and the support of the Office of International Affairs using the Global Classroom Project. And students are able to go through this entire process and gain credit for it. I hope he did not give up on me. So what does the future hold for us? We are looking to expand this model to other universities. We are looking to bring what we've learned from the class and bring what we've learned from the student club and form what we call Roots Africa Institute at different institutions around the world. So if you're here today and you're thinking about bringing an idea like this to your school, please talk to me, and I'll be very happy to share my experience with you. Thank you very much.
Cedric, thank you so much. Do you want to have a seat? And Dr. Littlefield and Matt, if you'd rejoin us. Cedric, I don't know if you said how many farmers you actually trained and learned from while you were abroad.
400.
Over 400 in just one trip. Does this work? Hello, everyone. Thank you. So Cedric and Matt, I've heard your stories so many times, but every time I'm inspired and I learn something new. So thank you again for sharing your work with us. Can we give them another round of applause, please? So I think now you've met everyone, but I want to start with Dr. Littlefield. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Yeah.
And since we're in a classroom and at a university, I'd like to start in the classroom. Can you tell us a bit more about some of the academic offerings at Maryland and how we engage students in social innovation?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, you can see how amazing the students are that we have here, and they have these unbelievable ideas. So it's really our job to keep up with them and to help them be successful. And so we do that in the School of Public Policy and in the University of Maryland in a variety of ways, from individual courses to co-curricular living learning programs. We have a new minor in nonprofit leadership and social innovation. We have a major in public policy where students can go deep in that as well. And we have different structures within the courses from every step along the way, I believe, in that process. One is just introducing students to what are the issues out there. In the public leadership program that I directed a few years back, we would have students choose issues that affect our local community here in Prince George's County. And they would form 3 different work groups, one that was doing grant writing and investigating the nonprofit landscape in Prince George's County, one that was looking at policy change that could happen, and another that was doing fundraising that would add to a seed grant that we got from the Do Good Institute. And at the end, students would create policy proposals and also give a grant to a local nonprofit organization. And really getting students in that hands-on around different topics is critical. And it fed their mind and allowed them to think, well, what is it that I want to do? And how do I want to create change? And so we also have a course, the Do Good Now course, where we have students create their own ideas, form teams, and we give them the space and the structure to design and implement those projects, like some of the ones you've seen up here. And we've seen that to be critical as well, because these students are out there with these amazing ideas. They need support, but they also need credit for it because they are so busy and having to be students that offering credit and offering that structure and support is really, really critical. So we have courses that in grant making as well, where students are a foundation, where they learn the foundation investment side all the way to doing the work in the projects. And we've seen this in other parts of campus as well. So we've actually worked with the engineering school to design a similar type course where students can look at the unintended consequences of engineering. They can also use that model where they are learning how to do grant writing and also learning how to invest in the local nonprofit landscape as well. So a variety of different models and different ways that universities can provide support academically for their students in this work.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Littlefield. And I love the public leadership class that you talked about. It sort of addresses the different parts of the fishing equation that President Lowe was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you've had direct experience in these classes. Can you talk a little bit about how you started?
Yeah, sure. First, I guess that to give credit where credit was due, the James Hollister Wellness Foundation wouldn't exist without the public leadership program. The foundation began as a capstone project for the program after 2 years. And yeah, that's essentially how we got our start, not only with the public leadership program, but also the Do Good Institute. That was the first year we applied for the competition, and the $500 accelerator grant that we got with the Do Good Institute for our first year actually went to funding our first mission trip in Bolivia with MedFund, who was another Do Good alum. So after that, we competed in the Do Good Challenge again, and we managed to take home the gold that time. We won a $5,000 grant and the Audience Choice Award, which definitely helped us scale up a lot the impact of a lot of our medical mission trips. But one of the best things that came out of that was the network that we generated, the connections that really helped us to scale up to get to the point where we are today. So I guess, once again, to give credit where credit is due, any success of the James Hollister Wellness Foundation is ultimately your success as well, Jen, and your success as well, Sarah.
Modest.
We exist because of you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I want to dig in a little bit deeper to the partnership you were talking about with the other Do Good Challenge winner, MedFund. You're both alumni, and one of the themes of this session is collaboration. Can you talk about how that works?
Essentially, it's just, yeah. That pretty much sums it up. It really is just a matter of collaboration. We both share the same goals. We both want to help people in other countries, low-income citizens who otherwise don't have access to healthcare services. So Patrick, the head of the MedFund who operates in Bolivia, and me are really kind of just cut from the same cloth. It was a very natural marriage between my foundation and his. So yeah, ever since that first year that we worked with each other in 2015, I believe, we've just built our partnership from there on. And again, I don't want to dwell too much on the numbers, but that 40,000 figure that we saw earlier was definitely enlarged due to the work that Patrick and the people in his team have been putting in.
Thank you. We're moving just a little bit quickly because I want to leave room for the audience to ask some questions. So apologies if it feels like a speed event. Cedric, I want to talk to you now. So we've talked a little bit about the classroom, but there are other resources we offer at the university. Mini grants, coaching, programs like the Do Good Challenge that Bob Grimm talked about. What at the University of Maryland, what resources have been the most useful for your group?
Okay, so I've used all three of those. Initially, when we started fundraising, our first donor was the Do Good Institute, when we did not even know fully well what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to do good. We just did not know exactly how that process would look like. And they gave us $250. I remember after I left from the interview, I sent them an email. I'm like, I know the interview did not really go well, but if you would really just help me and give me some donation, this will help me to scale up. I just need that recognition. I just want an institute that is in this university to say, this is an idea that is valid enough for us to put our name behind. And moving from that, when we started fundraising, we were like, hey, the Do Good Institute supported us. So we have an idea here that can be implemented. And from then on, it became a rollerball where we went to the Office of International Programs in AGNR. Dr. Wei, who is in the audience, also took up the idea and supported us to a great extent. Another thing, unlike Matt, who won the Do Good Challenge, we have not yet won the Do Good Challenge. We go for it each and every year. But the thing is, we have that goal in mind. Every year we're thinking, what have we not done this year? What could we do differently next year? And we already have a plan for next year. But having that goal in mind that there is something up there that you can attain, that you can achieve, and gain more recognition for your organization, for your group, for your team, definitely puts that idea in students' mind, like there is a structure, there is a goal, and all of us, we unite towards that goal. And then counseling. This year, when we got back, we learned from other students that, oh, we fundraise more than you, or how do you fundraise this amount of money? So we launched this new conference called the Global Collective Conference that we'll be having each and every year. And we use $500 from the Do Good Institute and support from the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources to bring together over 13 student clubs working in international development here on campus. And all of them came together and we brainstormed on how can we use our collective effort, unite around the Sustainable Development Goals, and amplify our efforts around the world doing international development. So the Institute has so many building blocks that support you along the way. Without them, we cannot really thrive as much as we are doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Cedric. I want to take a moment to just acknowledge that the Do Good Institute is just one piece of an entrepreneurial ecosystem here at Maryland. There are a lot of groups and colleges and schools that have similar programming, coaching opportunities, funding opportunities for students. Dean Chang from the Academy of Innovation and Entrepreneurship was here last evening. I'm sure he's here. Yes, he's here as well. Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship within the business school, MTech, which is a student support center at the engineering school. There are plenty of these at the university, and we all support students in sort of a wraparound way. Cedric, just one more question before we open it up to the audience. Again, a question about collaboration. Yeah. It feels like you have a really true partnership with this university in Liberia, the Liberian International Christian College. Can you talk a bit more about what you've learned about collaboration through that work?
I think especially for international development, having that contact person in country that you can talk to and they respond back is like critical for collaboration. But I also think having people in the university who buy into your idea. This has been an effort where we took it into classes and developed the idea some more, went to the School of Entrepreneurship in Dingman Center. So we've moved from different places in order to build this concept to what it is. And you pick up different ideas along the way in order to come up with the whole product. I think collaboration, especially with the school in Liberia, has really made us to find this niche of communicating virtually each and every week, where you are understanding the challenges that is happening every day while it's happening, rather than coming in 1 year later to do an M&E evaluation of your program.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to open it up to the audience now, and we'll take your questions. Raluca and I think there's one just up at the stand. So I'd say if you have questions for Dr. Littlefield, for Matt and Cedric about their individual initiatives or how we support students at the University of Maryland, we're happy to take your questions now.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Sanderson from the University of Glasgow. Firstly, can I just say what an inspiring session that was? You guys are incredible, and I would love. I actually have lots and lots and lots of questions for all of you, but I will keep it brief. But I really just wanted to say what fantastic work you're doing. You should be incredibly proud. I guess for the Do Good Institute itself, what are your future ambitions? So what are the plans for the Institute? How do you measure success? And actually, if there's time for Matthew and Cedric also to kind of answer that question in terms of their future aspirations.
Sure. I'll just say quickly, because I would actually like to hear from Matt, Cedric, and Jen as well, where they would like to see the Do Good Institute. But our goal is to really reach every single student at the university at some point between orientation and graduation, whether it's in a course, the Do Good Challenge, one of these interventions that we have. And we're making an impact and doing that. We have 14 colleges and schools at the university, and we're housed within one, the School of Public Policy. So by partnering with other academic branches at the university, we're doing that slowly. And we're building up the number of students that we're reaching, but there are a lot more to reach. So I'd say that is where we're trying to get in the next few years, is to make sure we can touch every student. Matt and Cedric, I'll let you speak now, and I'd love to hear, because you've been through some of our programming, what would be valuable that we don't offer, maybe?
That is a good question. Yeah, talk about something that I don't even know. I will say, one of the best things that I've experienced about the Do Good Institute in general so far is that after I won the Do Good Challenge, it wasn't, okay, here's the money, good luck to you, best wishes. It was a constant relationship that's been growing and growing and growing even after that point to this very day. That's why Sarah was kind enough to have me come in here in the first place. They do have, I think as Bob mentioned before, a new accelerator program where they're continuing to offering money, support, mentorship, networking, all these kind of resources to former Do Good alums and to other alumni within the University of Maryland to keep that relationship building and building and building, and also allowing us the opportunity to dream bigger, to expand our own influence, to expand our own goals, to allow us to achieve heights that we didn't even know that we could personally achieve. That's why personally, I'm able to start thinking about expanding not just to Central America, where we've been primarily serving at this point, but also to serve countries in West Africa or Southeast Asia, countries all over the world. A lot of that scaling up is really only possible as a result of the work that we're doing with the Do Good Institute and that continued relationship and networking.
Yep. Okay. I was happy he took the question first because I'll figure out what to say. But I think this is the perfect occasion. I think it should become a trend in other schools, like the schools that you have. I know you have something along those lines already in your institution, but I would like to see this as an international event that we all come back together here and celebrate doing good in the world. As for Roots Africa, in the next 5 years, we hope to expand to 5 other universities. And that means 5 universities here or in Europe and 5 other universities in Africa. So that's 10 universities that we connect with each other. And that is our goal for the next few years and the future.
I think there's some people to talk to in the audience about that.
Yeah.
Dr. Littlefield, is there anything on the academic side or otherwise?
The only thing I would add is I think it's really important to have all these touch points for students, but also allow for students to understand the context. Your opening point, why are there people in the world that work so hard but are still hungry? Why? Why is that? How do we understand the systemic issues and the problems surrounding why we need to do good? I think it's critically important in the academic space as well. And I think that's a really important addition to the new major in public policy. So understanding that context, understanding how to work with others that think differently, differently, that might have different opinions on how to solve these problems, and then what are different levers of change in which we can create change. Sometimes it is through these organizations in these different sectors, but sometimes we have to get that policy change as well. So understanding all the different ways and allowing students to go deep is really important too, and that's one of the goals that we have for some of these programs we've added recently.
That's a great point. Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
It was going to pick up on that discussion, really. I mean, one of the reasons that the examples you showed us were so terrific is that they appeal to others, because we recognise these are not problems confined to the University of Maryland. So, this is a university network. What's to stop us committing to joining you? I mean, if you're open to us to join, personally, I'll commit the University of Edinburgh to look at these two areas and see whether there are students in our university that want to join in, because I'm quite sure there will be. Drug wastage, for example. Drug wastage is a huge issue in the UK as well. I mean, one personal anecdote from my own experience, I was doing work in Uganda for a number of years, which put me at risk of needle stick injury from HIV. And every time I went, my hospital insisted that I took 28 days worth of HIV medications with me to take, because you have to take it immediately. And when I got to the end of my time there and I hadn't had a needle stick injury, the first time I took the medications home with me, took them back to the pharmacy, and they said, sorry, we can't use them, you have to throw them away. So every other time I did it, I'd left the medications in Uganda so that somebody at least could have a month's worth of HIV drugs. But so there are plenty of examples like that. I mean, we need to do this kind of thing. The network's always looking for ways in which we can be greater than the sum of the parts. And I personally think that this is a great example. If we can get some of our students to join in, and our alumni, and if you're open to it, which it sounds like both of you are, then let's do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Other questions from the audience? Yes, we have one in the front.
How do the people of College Park know about what you're doing? How do the people of College Park and the state of Maryland know what you're doing?
That's a great question. Dr. Little.
So I would say we have, the University of Maryland has a community relations office that we work really close together. We are a big place, so we could, I think, improve on how we work together, but we do have an effort to work locally as well. And that is also why when I developed the public leadership program, I started locally, because Prince George's County has a lot of opportunity, has a lot of challenges as well. And so I wanted them first to invest in where they live and learn where they are. And the nonprofit space in Prince George's County is under capacity right now. It really needs a lot of capacity building. So I wanted to focus their efforts locally first so they understood the local landscape, and then give them the space to go global, right? To whatever it is that they were passionate about. And I think that there's a lot of classes out there doing the same, where they work locally with domestic violence shelters locally. So we've seen this in the what's called community service learning within courses, where they are teaching something around psychology, and they will partner with a local nonprofit to have that hands-on approach. So we see that throughout the university, that connection to local, but then it's important to give them the space to go global too. So I don't know if it quite answers your question, but.
Yeah, I think that's right. I would say our students are banging down the doors of local schools and nonprofits, and so they certainly know about us. If anything, we can, I think, coordinate better how we try to work with them, so we're not just supporting them sort of ad hoc, based on the one class, but how can we as a university support the community that we're in?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Other questions? There's one here in the front.
Hi, Barbara Redmond, Provost of U21. Just to thank the Do Good Institute, because I know U21 have already been in, we're way ahead of you, Peter. We've already been in communications with you, and we're hoping to be able to launch a U21 competition looking at social entrepreneurship across the network, and also to look for industry partners to come in and support us. But we've been very inspired by your work, and we really want to thank you of putting this idea and giving us good seeds to grow. So thank you.
Thank you.
Exciting.
I think we have time for just one more question, if there is one. And if not,
One in the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Jess Gallagher. I'm from the University of Queensland, and thank you. It was a fantastic panel session. I just wondered about, the entrepreneurship ecosystem at the University of Maryland is incredibly enviable. I mean, we look from Australia and just amazed at what you've got in terms of scale and scope. I just wondered, in terms of funding for the programs, how you've been able to fund the competitions and provide that seed funding. Has that come through philanthropy, from alumni, from corporate donors? Just getting a sense of how you've been able to manage the financials around it.
Sure, of course. So I thought we would get this question. The Do Good Institute is largely funded by private donations. We also have some corporate sponsorships for the Do Good Challenge. For example, Morgan Stanley has been our sponsor since the beginning, all 8 years. As you can see from what Cedric and Matt are sharing, the funds that we're giving out are not always that big. $250 to a group to jumpstart their project is not that much, but there are other things that go with it that really help leverage the funding, coaching, the legitimacy that Cedric was talking about. And when we're working with other partners on campus, so for example, the Do Good Now class that Dr. Littlefield was talking about, we were trying to offer that in more and more schools and colleges at the university, and sometimes we match funding to support other sections of that course. And I really like what the public leadership class does.
I'll add to that. Well, one, two, there's also some foundations out there that are recognizing this work. So there's foundations that actually give university classes money to give away to nonprofits. So beyond the individual corporate sponsorship, there are some foundations out there. The Sunshine Foundation, I think, might still be doing this. But we also had students fundraise. And I was skeptical that they would be excited about that. But that was actually our most popular group. I was always surprised because they come out of high school having done all this community service work where they'd done fundraising. We had one student who was in the Do Good Challenge actually just last week who raised like $100,000 for breast cancer as a high school student. So they came in passionate about it and knowing about it, and they were extremely successful using their own networks to raise money, and we would match them. And so that was a lot of incentive of like, oh, the more we raise, the more we can give. And you know, moms, dads, grandparents, everybody wants to support that. They were super successful in the fundraising. And so that, and then also, as Sarah said, in Prince George's County, a lot of our nonprofits are extremely small. So we were giving $2,000, $3,000 grants, and they were huge for these groups. I mean, it allowed them to do really big things on a small amount of money. So even giving to local nonprofits, that can be a lot of money for them. And also supporting the groups in small ways for the student groups is really important too. So I think kind of coming up with a mix, it's not as daunting as it might seem. Yeah.
Great. If there are no more questions.
They're fighting over who gets the mic.
Okay.
So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Extraordinary, just extraordinary.